Welcome to Victorious Living. Are you ready to unlock your full potential and experience the abundant life God has planned for you? We all face challenges, but on Victorious Living, we will equip you with practical tools and inspiring stories to help you live a life of victory. Let's prepare ourselves to learn something new today. Before we jump in, let's spread the victory. Share this video with someone who needs a fresh perspective. You were created for greatness. Let's dive in and discover how to live a life of victory.
Hi everybody, welcome to another beautiful episode of Victorious Living. I have a beautiful word for somebody who need to hear this today. It's Jeremiah chapter 30 when Jesus says, God says, verse 3, I will cause them to return to the land that I gave them. Today I speak over your life that you are going to come back from the place of distress to a place closeness with God. You're not watching us by chance. Today, I want to meet somebody who has met Jesus face to face. Isn't it interesting? No matter what you're going through in life, whatever place you are in, today is the day of your victory. This program is totally designed for you. You need to live victorious because God has already designed you to live in victory. The DNA of God is inside of you. Without wasting any more time, I would like to welcome Chaplain Victoria.
Amen.
Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And please introduce yourself and let's go ahead and listen about your story and how you met Jesus.
Sure. My name is Victoria, and it was on January 26th, 1998. And I happened to be switching channels and I came across a show I don't usually watch, which is the 700 Club, Christian Broadcasting Network. And I remember Gordon Robertson was saying, just repeat this prayer after me and Jesus will manifest himself. And to me, I thought, well, manifest means to show up. So I'm not really quite sure about that. But then he continued and talking. And again, he said it, just repeat this short prayer after me, and Jesus can manifest himself into your life. So I said to myself, just kind of shaking it off, okay, I can do this. So I repeated the prayer. And once I repeated the prayer, it was almost immediately I started feeling a tingling in my feet. And I remember sitting there thinking, what is going on? Because the tingle then started going upward in my leg, but it felt like a warm wave of water rushing on the inside. And it traveled up and it traveled up and it got to my knees. And then, of course, I thought, okay, what's going on here? And it continued traveling up. And again, I have to really state that it felt like a warm rush of water on the inside of me that was just flowing and flowing. And as it flowed up and it reached the top of my head, it was like everything went completely snow white. And I'm in the midst of this snow white light. And I hear from the right side of me, can you forgive? Very audibly. And I remember turning my head very slowly to the right, and Jesus was standing there. And we're in this white light. I'm looking at him, and he says to me again, can you forgive? And for just a second, I thought, can I forgive? But then I looked at him and I thought, look who's asking me. So I said to him, yes, I can forgive. At that moment, he reached his right arm up this way, and I followed his arm, and I was looking at the drape of the robe. And he extended his arm, and right in front of where he was reaching was like a screen, a big movie screen appeared, and then it was my ex. And it was the woman he cheated with on me. And it was my dad, because I had a very bad relationship with all three of them. I hated them. I didn't want anything to do with them. I was unforgiving and such. And once I said this, all three of them popped like a bubble on the screen. And then immediately following that, it was like all these bubbles started appearing all over the screen. And I was watching them and I thought, are these people that I need to forgive? Because I really couldn't tell who they were. And I remember I looked back at him because he asked again, can you forgive? And I remember looking at him, and it was like a brilliant light around him. His hair came down to his shoulders in a wave. And the light that was coming from him was coming from here, and it was going everywhere. And I looked at him and I said, yes. And right then, it was, I don't know how to explain it other than it was like this rockets of all these different colors of the rainbow, just beautiful colors, just started flowing through me and flowing through me. And I was feeling all this ecstasy, this love, this there's no words to really explain the feeling that was going through me. And right at that moment, I looked at him, and all of a sudden I was lifted. And I remember looking down and seeing my feet, and below my feet, I saw the earth. And I thought it was so beautiful. And then I thought, am I dying? And I remember looking at Jesus and saying, am I dying? And all of a sudden, we were back. And he said to me, the only thing that matters in this world is God. Mm-hmm. Everything of this world stays of this world, and everything that belongs to God goes with God.
Wow.
And I remember, I was in awe of everything that was going on around me. I was in fear, too, because it's like, what will people think when I tell them about all this? And, his answer to me was, it's not your job to make anybody believe you.
Right.
It's just your job to tell them the truth. And the truth is, I am alive. And I remember at that moment, the TV is going, still going. It's like, I did not know. It's like I'm right back where I was. And I remember thinking, oh my God. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I don't know what to think. I got up, I walked around the house, I made sure my children were in their room sleeping, and I remember walking back and sitting there and thinking, what just happened? What just happened? And I thought, if I do die tonight, at least I know where I'm going.
Yes.
And in the morning, it was just like Jesus, his face, everything was just everywhere with me. Whether I was cleaning, whether I was drinking a cup of coffee, no matter what I did, his existence was so strong in me and so strong in my mind. And, it was just, it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
Wonderful. And I'm sure that many of you are going to have encounter with Jesus today as we pray at the end. I'm sure. I'm very convinced that you're not watching us by chance. But before we actually enjoy and rejoice over this encounter that we had, we need to know your past. But many people don't know your past. You had a very hard life. Tell us about that.
Yes. I was born in a poor family. My father, he didn't care about anything but horses. So if he didn't own one, he worked for those who did. Race horses, so, that was his life. He was an alcoholic. And so I grew up watching him beat my mother and being dragged out of bed by my hair. And, there were days he beat me so bad I couldn't go to school, because I would have black eyes and swollen face. And it seemed that there was three of his children out of 6 of us that he beat really bad all the time. And I grew up this way. We were afraid of everything. There, he would put a clock timer on, and he would make us box each other till one of us would win, and then he'd make us box the next one. So this type of upbringing caused a lot of anger within me. And, finally, my mother, when I was about 16 years old, she finally divorced him and moved us to California. But, I refer to those days as broken wings and wounded hearts. And my sisters and I did get together years later, and we wrote our own stories in a book on that. And so I grew up, we moved to California. I didn't have a dad anymore. I wasn't afraid of my mother. So I had met friends, and off I went. So there were days I didn't go home. I was hanging out. I had friends. We, would hang around the gangs and such. And I grew up in that period because one of my friends, her family was outlaw bikers. And so I grew up in that type of, arena. And we were wild. We were wild. That's the way we were. And I was very mean, and I would get into fights, street fights, at the drop of a hat, whether if somebody looked at me wrong or, because I was carrying a chip on my shoulder and I was letting it go. And this was the wrong way to let this go.
Yes.
So there were days of drugs. There were days of alcohol and doing all the wrong things. I dropped out of high school when I was in the 11th grade, and I never went back. And life went on, and I met someone, and at that time I lived with him for 7 years. We produced 2 daughters. And it didn't work out because he was so much like my dad that him and I would get into those fights, physical fights, and I would get beaten.
Oh, God.
So it was that type of a lifestyle for me. And one day I caught him with the woman that I saw on the screen that Jesus showed me. He wanted me to forgive them both. And I caught him with her and tore a bar apart and everything. And he ended up leaving with her. So I was brokenhearted. I had these 2 babies. I didn't know what to do. I was in this place for over a year. And finally, it's like the Lord led me to Las Vegas. Why Las Vegas, I don't know, but he led me to Las Vegas. But I made up my mind I did not want to live that way any longer.
Yes.
And I didn't want to do drugs. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to be that person I used to be.
Yes.
But I did not know how to change. Life is a journey. And, we have all these things that happen to us. And sometimes if we don't understand, we don't know how to change what's wrong with us. And I wanted to change. And, I started praying to God and everything. And it's kind of like he told me, well, come here, I want to introduce you to my son, because it was more God than it was Christ. So he led me through that journey, and I met somebody else and got married and had a son. And
it's in here in Las Vegas. You found Jesus.
Yes. It's in here in Las Vegas I found Jesus, yes.
Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you were blessed by this message. Let's use this encouragement to spread hope and light, not only in our own lives, but also in our families and communities. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment and let us know how God is working in your lives. Stay victorious and be blessed.